Hello, I'm Jake Tapper in Washington, where the state of our union is knowing the truth is out there. The U.S. military is trying to figure out what exactly they shot down over the frozen coast of Alaska on Friday afternoon and what else they shot down over northern Canada on Saturday, the third time in 8 days that a U.S. F-22 fighter jet has downed a flying object in North American airspace. President Joe Biden and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau authorized Saturday's operation, taking down an object that Canadians described as cylindrical and smaller than the suspected Chinese spy balloon shot down February 4th. Unlike that balloon, the second and third objects were both flying much lower, about 40,000 feet, close enough to be a threat to civilian aircraft. Anecdotally, a source said some pilots said the second object interfered with their sensors, and some pilots claimed not to have seen any identifiable propulsion, though U.S. officials could not confirm those details. But not much else is clear as both the U.S. and Canadian government try to recover remnants and figure it all out. What we do know is that U.S. officials are on high alert for high-flying objects after the discovery of the spy balloon. Last night, the FAA briefly shut down Montana airspace after the military detected a, quote, radar anomaly, but pilots sent to investigate did not identify any object in the skies. Joining us now, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Turner of Ohio. Chairman Turner, thanks so much for joining us. What can you tell us? What were these second and third objects that the military shot down, and where'd they come from?
Yeah, well, I certainly don't know, as the administration is saying they don't know. They do appear somewhat trigger happy, although this is certainly preferable to the permissive environment that they showed when the Chinese spy balloon was coming over some of our most sensitive sites. I think one thing that this shows is certainly the fallacy of the argument of the Biden administration saying that the height of the Chinese balloon caused them to have no concern. Because certainly, as we know, whatever goes up can come down. And just saying that this Chinese spy balloon was high and these are lower and therefore they actually pose a hazard really isn't a differentiation I think that anybody's comfortable with.
Are you glad that they shot down these two objects? Because obviously you and other Republicans were critical for that the Biden team took as long as they did to shoot down the object that was clearly a Chinese spy balloon.
Sure. As I was saying, I would prefer them to be trigger happy than to be permissive. But we're going to have to see whether or not this is just the administration trying to change headlines. But what I think this shows, which is probably more important to our policy discussion here, is that we really have to declare that we're going to defend our airspace, and then we need to invest. What's become clear in the public discussion is that we don't really have adequate radar systems. We certainly don't have an integrated missile defense system. We're going to have to begin to look at the United States airspace as one that we need to defend and that we need to have appropriate sensors to do so. This shows some of the problems and gaps that we have. We need to fill those as soon as possible because we certainly now ascertain there is a threat.
Do you think that the second and third objects shot down Friday and Saturday were spying on America and Canada? Is it possible they were just weather balloons or something else that's benign?
Yeah, it's interesting when the Department of Defense gave its first statement on this. If you notice, there was a word slipped in there that you certainly didn't hear when the Chinese spy balloon was over the United States, and that's the word corporate of origin. So even the Department of Defense is saying a very broad net as to what these things might be. But it shows a renewed interest and renewed dedication to defending United States airspace. Certainly the United States, this administration now needs to declare that it will defend its airspace, which of course is going to be difficult for an administration that has difficulty controlling the ground sovereignty to declare air sovereignty, but we need to do so.
When do you expect to get briefed again as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee?
This is particularly annoying about this administration. The Biden administration needs to stop briefing Congress through our television sets and actually come and sit down and brief us. What we're seeing here is a number of announcements by the administration without any real information being given to Congress. This could be because they don't have any information. From the press conference we saw, it does seem like they took this action without a real understanding for what they were going after, but having declared it a hazard. But we'll see as the information comes to Congress. But I do think that there needs to be more engagement between the administration and Congress. Probably they're a little hesitant after the Chinese balloon fiasco, where they let it go across the country to great criticism, bipartisan and bicameral criticism from Congress.
Have objects like these always been moving in and out of U.S. airspace, and we're just now learning about them with with new technology and shooting them down? Or do you think this is a new recent development?
I think it's certainly a new recent development that you have China being so aggressive in entering other countries' airspace and doing so for clear intentions to spy with very sophisticated equipment. I mean, the very scale of this balloon and of the technology that was deployed by China in spying on the United States is unprecedented. No other nation has anything like it, and no other nation's attempted it. But certainly there are things at times that come and go from our airspace that we track, that we try to determine if it's going to be a threat, that don't rise to the level of the very large, sophisticated Chinese spy balloon.
A source briefed on the intelligence said that some of the pilots said the object interfered with their sensors on the plane. I think this is the second object shot down over Alaska on Friday. Interfered with their sensors. Not all the pilots reported that, but some did. Some pilots also claimed to have seen no identifiable propulsion on the object and could not explain how it was even staying in the air. What do you make of those reports?
Well, at this point, they are just reports, so we'll have to wait until we get the final information. But because this thing was shot down, we have an ability to do the forensics, to do the exploitation of it when it's found. And that will answer a lot of our questions. And also getting the data from the various planes, their sensors, what they actually were seeing or not seeing, in addition to what the pilots saw, will be really important. But there's going to be a number of questions to answer here. The big point is that this is time for the United States to take this as a turning point to invest. We need more sophisticated radar systems. We have them. We just don't have them deployed to protect continental United States. An integrated missile defense system. We've helped invest in Israel having an integrated missile defense system. We don't have one ourselves. This is a turning point where we need to discuss this is a threat and how do we respond to it.
Let's turn to talk about the latest in the classified documents investigation. We just learned that last month, former President Trump's team apparently turned over more classified records from Mar-a-Lago, including a laptop and thumb drive with classified pages that had been uploaded by an aide from Trump's Political Action Committee. You're the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Is this acceptable to you, and are you worried that an outside aide from Trump's Political Action Committee had possession of these documents?
Yeah, I just don't get this, Jake. I don't get it with Biden, Pence, or Trump. All of them keep finding documents that are classified, stuff places. I have no understanding of it. I can tell you that members of Congress who, like me, deal with highly classified information on the Intelligence Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee, we're all just stumped. We don't understand how this could be happening. We don't understand how all three could have been so lackadaisical about this. These are incredibly important documents. They are not to be taken lightly, and we're just amazed as people keep finding them stuffed in the strangest places, like behind Biden's Corvette. This is clearly a failure of an understanding of how to handle the importance of these documents. There is legislation now that have been dropped in Congress that will make it even more difficult and give different penalties to be able to enforce mishandling classified documents. It's all coming from just people are just shocked.
I want to ask you before you go, Russia just launched yet another major round of missiles into Ukraine on Friday, its first major assault in weeks, as President Zelensky is still pleading with the U.S. for more help. And yet at the same time, almost a dozen of your fellow House Republicans introduced a resolution to halt any more military or financial help for Ukraine. What do you say to those individuals in the House Republican Conference? And are you worried at all that this marks the beginning of the end of U.S. support for Ukraine?
Yeah, as you know, both on the left, the Democrats sent a letter to 20 people saying that we should immediately negotiate a settlement and then withdrew it. Putin still hears it, even though it's withdrawn. And then you have the far right saying the same thing. But luckily, they do not add up to the majority of Congress. The majority of Congress understands that this is crucial. We are fighting on the front lines of democracy. The fact that Zelensky has been, as president, been able to rally his country to fight against Russia, and we've been able to arm them, it is really unprecedented. That a nation like that could stand to a superpower like Russia, but they're doing so with the commitment to keep the sovereignty of their nation. And Russia's atrocities are just appalling. Anyone who sees what Russia is doing and killing innocent civilians, destroying the infrastructure there, has to be moved to want to support the Ukrainians. I'm very disappointed in those who don't see the importance of this.
All right. The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio, thanks for joining us this morning, sir.
Thank you.